I used to think mornings didn't matter, that they were just a way to pass the hours before the real day started. But then I began spending them at the small corner laundromat on Willow Street, the one with the flickering, open, sign and the stubborn dryer that always ate coins. And her. She didn't belong there, not really. She looked like someone who should have been in a warm, polished office, not folding towels under buzzing fluorescent lights. Mid-40s, maybe a little older, but she carried herself in a way that made guessing feel disrespectful. She always came around the same time as me. Not because she had to, I think, but because routines keep people steady. I understood that. The first morning she spoke to me, I almost didn't answer. "You're the only person I know who reads novels at a laundromat," she said, nodding toward the book half open on my lap. I shrugged. Dryers are loud. Books make them quieter. She smiled, the kind of smile that doesn't ask for anything. Makes sense. After that, it became normal. Not talking, exactly. More like, sharing a space in a way that didn't feel forced. She'd fold her clothes with quiet precision. I'd glance up from my book more than I actually read it. Sometimes she'd bring coffee in a thermos and offer me some, saying, "It's too strong. I won't finish it," even though the steam still curled from the lid. She learned my schedule without me telling her. I learned she liked her clothes dried on medium, not high. Tiny things, but somehow they felt heavier than they should have. The attraction didn't come in a dramatic flash. It came in the faintest moments. Like the way she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear when she caught me looking. Or the way she remembered I didn't like sugar in my coffee. Or the time she asked, almost casually, "You live alone, right?" And I said yes, maybe too quickly. Loneliness has a sound. For me, it was the quiet click of my phone screen locking after typing out messages I never sent. "Want to hang out?" Delete. "Are you free?" Delete. "I miss talking to someone." Delete. She noticed, somehow. Or maybe she just knew the shape of silence better than I did. One morning, she sat beside me instead of across the room. Close enough that our elbows almost touched. She didn't say much, just sighed, long and tired, like she'd been carrying something for days. "You okay?" I asked. She nodded, but not convincingly. "Rough night." I didn't push. We just sat there, listening to the dryers thump rhythmically against the walls. She kept fidgeting with the hem of her sleeve, twisting it between her fingers. I kept flicking my eyes toward her hands without meaning to. When her dryer buzzed, she didn't stand right away. She looked at me first, not searching for an answer, more like checking if I was still real. "I'll see you next week?" she asked. "Yeah," I said, but my voice sounded softer than I intended. She left, holding her basket like it weighed more than just laundry. I stayed behind, staring at the machine where she'd sat. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a message from an unknown number. A single line, her message stayed on my screen the entire week. Every time I unlocked my phone, there it was, a sentence pretending to be harmless. "I shouldn't have said what I said last night. But you didn't hear it, right?" I typed back 3 different replies. Deleted all of them. Whatever she had said, whatever I wasn't supposed to hear, the weight of it clung to me. By Saturday morning, I ended up at the laundromat earlier than usual. I told myself it was because I needed clean clothes. But when I saw her car already parked outside, my chest tightened in a way that didn't feel like coincidence. She was sitting on the folding table, legs crossed at the ankle, scrolling through her phone. When the door jingled, she looked up, and for a second, she froze, as if she'd been waiting but didn't expect me so soon. "You're early," she said. "So are you." She gave a small, almost embarrassed smile and hopped off the table. The room felt warmer with her in it. We worked in a shared rhythm, loading machines, pushing buttons, pretending not to look at each other too long. But something had shifted. Not tension exactly, something quieter. An awareness. I finally cleared my throat. Your message. You don't have to explain anything. It's okay. She folded a towel, smoothed the edges with her palms. I didn't mean to put you in a strange position. It's not strange. That was the truth, or a version of it. She hesitated, then said, my daughter, she's visiting this weekend. I didn't react fast enough. Her eyes caught mine, steady, almost bracing for judgment. You have a daughter? I asked gently. 23. She exhaled, half laughing. Which makes me officially too old to be, she cut herself off, shaking her head. Never mind. I didn't press, but something in my chest dropped into place, a quiet, undeniable understanding of what this connection risked for her, and for me. We drifted into small talk after that. Nothing dramatic. Just stories that slipped out because they felt safe in the hum of machines. She told me she used to paint when she was younger, late nights, cheap brushes, canvases that never dried right. I told her I used to stay awake listening to my dad repair old radios, waiting for the moment the static turned clear. Not confessions. Just fragments, but fragments people don't share unless they're letting someone in. She made us tea from the thermos she carried. Too hot, slightly bitter. She handed me the cup carefully, her fingers brushing mine. Neither of us acknowledged it, but neither of us pulled away quickly enough either. We sat on the plastic chairs by the window, watching the street outside grow brighter. She tapped her thumb lightly against her cup, a nervous rhythm. I kept noticing the small crease between her brows when she concentrated. At one point, she looked at me, really looked, as if searching for something she wasn't sure she had a right to want. I don't know why that moment stayed with me, I said quietly, surprising myself. Maybe because it felt like someone finally saw me. Her breath caught. Just a little. Then, without saying anything, she reached forward and straightened the collar of my shirt. A tiny gesture. Ordinary. Innocent enough to ignore. But her fingers lingered half a second too long. And that half second changed everything. The following week felt unusually long, the kind of days where every hour drags, stretching thin with the weight of something unsaid. I kept replaying her fingers brushing my collar, the warmth of her touch staying with me longer than it should have. When I finally walked into the laundromat that Saturday, she wasn't there. Her usual machine sat empty. The air felt different without her, too bright, too quiet. I told myself not to be disappointed. People had lives, responsibilities. A daughter visiting. A weekend full of things that didn't include sitting across from a 20-something in a rundown laundromat. I loaded my clothes slowly, glancing at the door more times than I should admit. She arrived 15 minutes later. Not rushed, just, careful. Like she was entering a room she wasn't sure she belonged in anymore. She gave me a small nod, a polite smile, then went straight to the far corner machine instead of the one beside mine. I felt that distance before I even understood it. Hey, I said quietly. Hi. Soft. Controlled. Her voice didn't quite meet her eyes. I wanted to ask if she was okay. If her daughter's visit had gone badly. If the message she'd sent days ago was still haunting her the way it haunted me. But she kept busy with her laundry, shaking out a shirt, smoothing wrinkles that weren't there, folding before the machine even started. Avoiding my gaze with practiced precision. Something had pulled her back. I tried not to take it personally, but my chest tightened anyway. I sat on the chair nearest her corner, pretending to read the book I hadn't touched since last week. At one point, her eyes flicked toward me. Just a second. Then away again. The distance stung far more than I expected. I finally stood and walked over. You're quiet today. She swallowed hard. Just tired. But the way she shifted, one foot angled away, hands fussing with the dryer door, told another story. Before I could respond, the door jingled. Her friend walked in. A woman around her age, bright scarf, loud presence. She spotted us and raised her brows slightly, not accusing, just curious. Too curious. "Oh," she said, glancing between us. "Didn't know you had company." "We just do laundry around the same time," she replied quickly. Too quickly. Her friend gave her a look. One of those we'll talk later looks. My stomach dropped. The woman I'd been quietly, stupidly drawn to seemed to shrink in on herself, shoulders tight, breath shallow. She moved her basket closer to the wall, as if putting physical space between us would erase whatever her friend thought she saw. I stepped back too, giving her space I didn't want to give. Her friend eventually left, but the energy in the room didn't settle. If anything, it twisted tighter. "I'm sorry," she said abruptly. "For what?" "For, things getting complicated." "They're not," I said, but even I didn't believe it. She finally looked at me, a long, unsteady look that held too many questions and not enough courage to ask them. Our dryers beeped at the same time. Neither of us moved. She took a single, hesitant step closer. "I didn't mean to pull away," she whispered. I don't know what you think this is." My breath caught somewhere between hope and fear. "I don't know either," I admitted. "But I can't pretend nothing's happening." Her hand brushed mine as she reached for her basket, light, fleeting, trembling. For a moment, we both stopped moving. Her fingers hovered near mine. Close enough to close the distance. Close enough to ruin everything. She leaned in, barely, just a fraction, and then she exhaled sharply and stepped back, breaking the moment before it broke her. "We shouldn't," she murmured. But her eyes stayed on my mouth a second too long. A second that said everything neither of us dared to. I didn't expect to see her outside the laundromat. It was Thursday, not our day, and I'd stopped by the small park 3 blocks away, trying to clear my head. The last few weeks had been a slow pull and release, like standing too close to a door that kept swinging but never fully opening. I sat on the bench near the fountain, pretending to scroll my phone, when I saw her walk up the path. She noticed me before I could look away. "Oh," she said, stopping a few feet from the bench. "I didn't think, hi." Her voice was gentler than the words. "You want to sit?" I asked. She hesitated, then lowered herself onto the far side of the bench, leaving a polite gap between us. Too polite. She tucked her hair behind her ear, twice, before letting out a breath that felt practiced, like she'd been holding it all day. "Long morning?" I asked. "Long everything." Her laugh was quiet, but not the happy kind. "My daughter left yesterday." We argued. Small things. Things that weren't really about the things we said. I didn't comment. Some truths don't need commentary. We sat there listening to the trickle of the fountain, the occasional flap of wings from birds settling on the railing. Ordinary sounds. But the air between us wasn't ordinary, it was thick, aware, waiting. "I've been thinking," she said suddenly. "About what?" "About us." The word dropped between us like something fragile. She shifted her hands into her lap, fingers twisting together. "I don't understand what I'm doing. I don't understand what you want. And I keep trying to convince myself it's nothing, but then you look at me like." She stopped. I sat still, afraid any movement would scare her into retreating again. "Like what?" I asked softly. She stared straight ahead. "Like you see something I didn't think was visible anymore." Her voice cracked on the last word, not dramatically, just enough that I noticed. I felt something inside me tighten, something between longing and guilt. "I don't look at you any differently than how you look at me," I said before I could stop myself. Silence. A silence that didn't accuse or deny, just opened. She turned her head toward me slowly. "You shouldn't say things like that." "Why?" Because I'll believe you. Her lips trembled, barely. A beat. 2. 3. Are you seeing someone? She asked abruptly. Someone your age. Someone who isn't complicated. The jealousy in her voice wasn't sharp, it was quiet, accidental, like a truth that slipped out before she could catch it. No, I answered. I'm not. She nodded but swallowed hard, as if the answer didn't comfort her the way she'd hoped. Or maybe it comforted her too much. A breeze passed, brushing loose strands of her hair across her cheek. Without thinking, I lifted my hand to tuck them back, then froze halfway, unsure if I had the right. She didn't move. Didn't lean in. Didn't pull away. Just watched my hand like it was a decision. I don't know what we're doing, she whispered. Neither do I. Then why does it feel like, she trailed off, shaking her head. No. Forget it. I didn't. I couldn't. Her eyes were glossy now, reflecting the fountain in something raw. Something real. Tell me, I said quietly. Please. She opened her mouth, stopped, tried again. It feels like we're standing right on the edge of something, and if we take one more step, her voice faded, leaving the rest hanging between us. If we take one more step. What then? I felt her knee brush mine, barely, but enough. She didn't move away this time. And in that suspended second, with the afternoon light catching the corner of her smile, the question neither of us spoke pressed closer than the space between our hands: are we really about to cross it? She didn't come to the laundromat the next week. At first, I told myself it was nothing, maybe work ran late, maybe she went earlier, maybe she just needed sleep. But by the second week, the excuses felt thin, like fabric worn down by too many washes. The machines hummed, indifferent. Her usual corner stayed empty. I kept checking the door every few minutes, pretending I wasn't. My book stayed open on the same page the entire cycle. On the third week, she still wasn't there. That was when the quiet started to feel loud. I debated texting her, I even typed one out: "Are you okay? Missed seeing you today." I stared at the words for too long before deleting them. Too forward. Too assuming. Too honest. Instead, I sent nothing. The next morning, I ended up walking past the park bench where we talked. It was empty too. A breeze pushed dry leaves along the pavement, the kind of sound that feels like something brushing past you without stopping. I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt paused. Like life forgot to finish the sentence. By the fourth week, I'd almost convinced myself to move on. To let the space she left settle into something normal. But then I ran into her at the grocery store. She was standing in the aisle holding a carton of milk, staring at it like it had personally offended her. When she saw me, her shoulders tensed, but her face softened, slowly, like she had to remind herself to let it. "Oh," she said. "Hi." She looked older than before. Not in age, in weight. Like something had been sitting on her chest for weeks. "Hey," I said, careful with my tone. "Haven't seen you around." "I know." That was all she offered. I waited, hoping she'd add something, anything. But she just placed the milk into her basket and reached for a second item with deliberate calm, as if performing normalcy might make it real. "My ex came back," she said suddenly, almost whispering. "Not for me. For our daughter." But still, it stirred things I wasn't prepared to feel again. My throat tightened. "Are you too?" "No," she cut in quickly. "God, no. That's not what this is." She ran a hand through her hair, frustrated. But it made me realize how messy everything is. How messy I am. And how unfair it is to let you get tangled in that. I didn't know what to do with my hands. They felt too visible. She wasn't avoiding my eyes this time, she was holding them, almost pleading for understanding I wasn't sure I had the right to give. "So you just disappeared?" I asked quietly. Her face flinched, barely, but it was there. "I thought distance would make things easier." "For who?" She didn't answer. People passed us with carts and muffled conversations. We stood still in the middle of the aisle like we were part of a different world entirely. She finally said, "I miss our mornings." "Then come back," I said. "Just, come back." Her breath trembled, and I could see her fighting something, guilt, fear, longing, all crowded behind her ribs. "I can't," she whispered. "Not right now. Maybe not for a while." Before I could respond, someone called her name from the end of the aisle, a familiar voice. A man's. She stepped back instinctively, creating distance so fast it almost stole my breath. "I should go," she murmured. She walked away without looking back. That night, I typed another message. Just her name. Just enough to open a door. But I never hit send. The cursor blinked at me in the dark, waiting. I deleted the message and set the phone face down, the screen lighting up my palm for a moment before going still. The seat beside me, the one she once filled without realizing how much it meant, stayed empty. The night she finally showed up again wasn't planned. It wasn't a laundromat morning or a chance grocery store collision. It was quieter than that, late evening, a soft drizzle outside, the kind of weather that makes everything feel closer than it is. I heard the knock just after 10. 3 taps. Hesitant. Like she was asking permission to exist on the other side of the door. I opened it and found her standing there without an umbrella, raindrops caught in her hair, jacket damp at the shoulders. "Hi," she said, barely. I stepped aside. She entered without brushing past me, but the air shifted anyway, like the room recognized her before I did. "I'm sorry for coming this late," she murmured. "I wasn't sure if I should. I kept walking past your building." Twice. Actually, 4 times. The honesty in that sentence pressed something warm and painful against my ribs. "It's okay," I said. "Do you want to sit?" She shook her head. "No. I won't stay long. Her voice trailed off. She looked around my living room like she was trying to memorize it quickly, in case she had to disappear again. "You said your ex came back," I said carefully. "Is he still?" "No," she cut in. "He left. Again. My daughter's upset. And I'm tired. Tired in ways that have nothing to do with sleep." She clasped her hands in front of her, knuckles faintly white. I thought distance would help untangle everything. But it just made everything louder. I waited. The choice she came here to make hung unspoken between us. She took a shaky breath. "I keep telling myself I shouldn't feel this close to you. That it's wrong or irresponsible or, I don't know." She exhaled slowly. "But then I keep missing you in the stupidest ways. Like hearing a machine beep and thinking it's our dryer. Or passing a bench and wishing you were on the other side of it." I swallowed. "You could have told me." "I was scared," she said. "Not of you. Of how easy it felt. How natural. I haven't trusted easy in a long time." Her voice trembled, but she didn't look away. It wasn't a confession. It wasn't romantic. It was simply true. "I didn't want to mess up your life," she added softly. "You're younger. You have time. You have choices. And you think you're not one of them?" She blinked, slow, stunned, like no one had said something kind to her in months. "I don't know what we are," I continued. "I don't know where it goes. But I know what it felt like when you weren't here." My throat tightened. It felt wrong. Like something was missing that I never asked for but still, mattered. She stepped closer. Not dramatically, just a small shift of weight. Close enough that I could feel the damp chill of her jacket sleeve. Her eyes glassed over, not with tears, but with the exhaustion of finally stopping the fight with herself. "Do you want me here?" she asked quietly. Honestly. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. Just nodded. The relief that washed over her wasn't loud. It was a single exhale. A soft lowering of shoulders. A fragile, human letting go. She reached out, hesitant, and her fingers brushed mine. Not a kiss. Not a promise. Just contact. Simple. True. "Okay," she whispered. And that one word settled into the room like it belonged there. It surprised both of them how easily life adjusted after that night in the kitchen. No grand declarations, no dramatic promises, just a quiet decision to keep showing up. Not perfectly, not fearlessly, but honestly. A few weeks passed before either of them realized they had slipped into a new rhythm. Not a romantic one, not yet, just a steadier, gentler version of what they already were. He still came over on Saturday mornings, still made black coffee too strong for her, still leaned against the counter like he didn't fully know where to put his hands. She still pretended she didn't watch him think, still brewed tea at exactly 8:47 a.m. like it didn't mean anything. But it meant something now. Everything did. Sometimes he reached for her mug to hand it to her before she could lift it. Sometimes she brushed past him in the hallway and didn't pull back as quickly as she used to. Small things. Quiet things. Nothing anyone else would notice. There were no fireworks, no sudden shift, just the sense that the air between them had softened. It was easier now. Safer, somehow. One evening, they found themselves on that same park bench where they had once sat with too much space between them. Winter was settling in, the kind that painted breaths white and made silence feel heavier. She tucked her hands inside her coat, he kept his on his knees, close enough that the warmth of him felt intentional. They didn't talk about the moment in the kitchen. They didn't need to. It lived beneath their conversations like a second heartbeat, steady, unspoken, understood. He watched the lights flicker on across the park. "You're different lately," he said quietly, not looking at her. She didn't deny it. "So are you." "Good different?" He asked it in the smallest voice. She let the question sit in the cold air. Then she shifted, just a little, closing an inch of the space between them. It wasn't dramatic. But he felt it. "Good," she said. "Real good." He exhaled in a way that sounded like months of worry leaving his body. Later, when they got up to leave, he hesitated. She noticed. She always noticed. Without overthinking, she slipped her hand into his jacket sleeve, not fully holding him, just letting her fingers brush the inside seam so he could pull away if he wanted. He didn't. They walked like that to her doorstep, quiet, natural, as if it had always been part of their routine. When they reached her door, she turned to him with a tired, sincere smile. Not a romantic one. Just the kind that came from finally feeling understood. "You want tea tomorrow?" she asked. He nodded once. 8:47. She laughed under her breath. "You remembered." He shrugged, eyes soft. "I remember things that matter." That was it. No kiss. No grand ending. Just two people choosing each other in the simplest possible way. Before he left, she touched his sleeve again, a small, grounding gesture neither of them pretended meant less than it did. "Okay," she whispered. And he whispered back, "Okay." Something only they understood. Did this story stay with you? What kind of quiet, real love stories do you want to hear next?